We just felt like there were certain aspects of transitioning into homeownership that like shouldn't be this hard. On our experience at a basic level, we didn't know that there was both property tax and school tax. Those were separate.
Oh, right.
How would we have known that? And then our property tax was going to the previous owner for 9 months because the name just hadn't been updated in the city tax collection system. And then we paid a gigantic late fee and we're told there was nothing we could do about it. Our closing costs were just calculated incorrectly. So we ended up getting, several $1,000 refund after the fact, which is, I'm glad we then ultimately resolved it. But it was like, it doesn't seem like this should be an unknown. It seems like it should all be knowable.
The valley moved up from the city, it's a new way of living and I'm trying to get used to it. One park poodles have an ounce of an idiot, ordered a Manhattan and they call me a Cidiot. At first I hurt my feelings but it's kinda got a ring to it. When you move to the country they can tell when you're new to it. I'm looking at a place but I'm trying to keep fitting in. It takes too long to be a local so for now I'm a Cidiot.
I'm Matt Zucker, and this is Cidiot, learning to live and love life in the Hudson Valley. In addition to the great outdoors, the space, the mountains, the farms, and yes, the animals, one of the biggest things a Cidiot moving from an apartment to the country will likely experience is home ownership. I'm fascinated by this topic. Early on in the show, in the first season, I did an episode about setting up your house and preparing for winter, and gardening too. Last year, if you've been tuning in, you know that Brian and I sold our house in Tivoli and moved to the small city of Hudson for a new chapter. I've regaled the wonders of living in town again and all its trappings. We rented an apartment on the main drag and have had a wonderful vacation from the challenges and, the joys of home ownership. But we're back in it. We're moving out of town to a house on a country road again. So I thought it'd be very timely to get back into the topic of houses. Luckily, I recently met a couple, Hugo and Madeline, who started a business called Castle, a finance app helping homeowners like me and you save time and money to manage your home. Castle, as Madeline explains it, is a two-part service. The first is understanding the money you're spending, and the second part is helping you optimize and save. Their average customer, as you'll hear, get this, is saving $10,000 a year. Yeah, that's big. Madeline came on the show to tell me more about her and her own Cidiot journey. Not from New York, mind you, but from the Bay Area. She sees a lot of similarities and in many ways is recreating a life from there, here. We also talk about Castle and how it got started. And as you'll hear from Madeline, homeownership and finances shouldn't be such a mystery. And as she put it, it seems like it should all be knowable. Hi, Madeline.
Hi, Matt.
Hey, thank you for coming on Cidiot.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I know we just met a couple months ago, so I'm excited to talk to you more and hear your story. But also the topic we're going to get into about homeownership and financing it and managing it is close to my heart. Brian and I are buying a house. We're really into real estate. And we're also clueless about. Well, we've learned a lot. We are Cidiot. But I think also the audience is going to really get a lot out of what's possible out there that maybe they don't know about. We all think we know stuff and we don't know everything. And my show is all about curiosity. So I like to find out new things I didn't know. And I didn't even know about your service or about you guys until we met just a couple months ago.
Yes, love it. No, just can't wait to dive in.
All right, cool. Let me start first with your relationship, yours and Hugo's with the Hudson Valley. Are you from here or when did you move here? Let's start there.
So my relationship to the Hudson Valley is kind of happenstance. I previously did not have any connection to the Hudson Valley before moving here. And I would say, I guess, that I'm a Cidiot, but I'm not a New York Cidiot. I'm a San Francisco Bay Area Cidiot. I grew up in the Bay Area, and my running joke is actually that I've been trying to recreate my Bay Area lifestyle on the East Coast, and this is about as close as I can get living in the Hudson Valley. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it, actually.
Wow, what's similar? I never thought about that. The wine?
Yeah.
No, the wine's much better in California.
Yeah, I think lots of things. I mean, obviously, at a most basic level, access to kind of nature and outdoors.
Yeah.
I've always been a big kind of hiker, love mountains, that kind of thing. And big kind of focus on agriculture and food scene.
Oh, right. The foods, the farm-to-table stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Worked in Napa for a little bit. So I think there's that. But then also, I think just like community-wise, frankly, I came briefly from New York City, but also lived abroad in London for a little bit. And I think I was just missing. In San Francisco, you like start a conversation and tell your life story to someone next to you in the grocery store, which is maybe one extreme end of things. But I was missing a little bit of that, just community aspect, talking to people on the sidewalk. And I was really looking for that. And so have found that very much in the Hudson Valley, where I think the running joke Hudson is like a one big campus. For all those reasons, it's been my way to bring what I missed about the Bay Area to the East Coast.
Oh, I love hearing that. No one's really talked about that. That's really fun. That's a different way to see the Hudson Valley. Very positive.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Castle, which is I don't know how to describe it. Maybe you'll do better words. It's a finance app. It helps you manage your home and your finances. So it's kind of financial services. It might be a bank. I don't know. Maybe tell us about what it is and then how you guys came up with the big idea to start it.
Absolutely. So yeah, Castle is a finance app that helps homeowners save time and money managing their homes. So if you think of a finance app, that could be like a Venmo or a Apple Pay or a Rocket Money. This one is specifically geared to helping homeowners. And why do we feel like homeowners need special help? Because for most homeowners, their home is their biggest asset, but it's actually quite a complicated asset to manage. And most homeowners don't have a lot of support when it comes to figuring out the value of their home, how to optimize their finances, opportunities to save money on their home. It's actually just quite a complicated data problem. And so part of what Castle does is just trying to equip homeowners with better information so they can make more informed decisions about managing their home.
And what kind of stuff comes up? When I was in the city, we owned 2 co-ops. And I know a lot of people, condos have become more popular. So a lot of services were taken care of. I don't know if we could have used it, but then when we bought our first house, our first self-standing house up here initially in Red Hook, that was very traumatic. Like we had all these things we didn't anticipate. It wasn't just bills. It was like different problems and things. And then we wanted to do renovations. And then Brian got into landscaping, which I had no idea what that bill was going to be. Like that was a phenomenal experience at scale. But we bought a 2-acre garden, so we didn't, but we just, it was a certain naivete across the board, inside and outside the house. We didn't even realize that plumbing, like septic isn't really plumbing. It's like outside the house. So insurance doesn't, it's all very complicated and stuff. So what kind of topics do you find people are the least knowledgeable about that they need to know about that Castle does?
I would say we had a really similar experience moving to the Hudson Valley and buying our first home. And we just felt like there were certain aspects of transitioning into homeownership that like shouldn't be this hard. On our experience at a basic level, we didn't know that there was both property tax and school tax. Those were separate.
Oh, right.
How would we have known that? And then our property tax was going to the previous owner for 9 months because the name just hadn't been updated in the city tax collection system. And then we paid a gigantic late fee and we're told there was nothing we could do about it. Our closing costs were just calculated incorrectly. So we ended up getting, several $1,000 refund after the fact, which is, I'm glad we then ultimately resolved it. But it was like, it doesn't seem like this should be an unknown. It seems like it should all be knowable. So there were things like that. And then on top of what you're talking about, which is just as first-time entrants, we didn't have a good sense of what things should cost and what is reasonable and where to invest.
Right. There's the benchmarks are tricky. Like you could Google some things, but that may not be relevant to your house.
Exactly. And so, yeah, sometimes you're like Googling a benchmark, but it's for a home, a new construction in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
That's not a helpful benchmark for where we are in the Hudson Valley, for example. So I think it was a lot of similar problems or challenges to what you were describing. These were things that should be somewhat knowable, and then we were just guessing. And so, we thought that was just like at a kind of fundamental data problem that we thought we could probably solve with technology. But then getting more into it, there's many, many challenges with homeownership. Some of them are also challenges that are not well solved with technology. Obviously, during COVID, there was like material shortages and labor shortages and that kind of thing. And those are also obviously have downstream effects for homeowners. But those are very complicated national policy problems to solve, unfortunately. But we thought that just by tackling this payments problem, that we could just give homeowners, we start chipping away at some of those problems by giving them better insights and better data about their house. And so that's where we chose to start.
So how does it work? I come out of advertising. So what's the commercial? Like I join and then I track and then I pay with it or how does it work?
So right now we offer a bill pay app. So the first goal is just to help homeowners understand what money they're spending on their house. And the first way we think we should do that is by helping you consolidate all of your home expenses in one place. Like most people are using 3 or 4 different payment methods a month to pay for their home expenses. And so it's actually just really hard to keep track of where the money's going. I describe, especially the experience during renovation, it's like writing checks into a black hole. And it seems like I can't remember what check 0015 was for on my bank statement, and I'm just trying to keep track of where the money's going. So that's the first problem we're trying to solve. And then once we understand the money they're spending, then we can help them optimize and give them insights into ways they can save. So that's by identifying this service you're using. There's a better service offering you the same plan for less. Or, hey, that hot water heater you just bought is eligible for a $500 rebate, and we've already pre-qualified you and submitted the application on your behalf. Or, hey, let's keep track of your capital improvements so that then when you go to sell the home, we can adjust your cost basis. So, things like that. So first it starts with understanding the money you're spending. And the second part is then helping you optimize and save.
Oh, cool. So is there like a fee or how does it work? How do you guys make money?
Yeah, we charge a subscription fee. So there's there's a free version if you just want to use Castle as your digital filing cabinet for all of your home records.
Right.
I have that manila folder of all of my receipts and manuals, which isn't the best way to actually retrieve information. So the first part is just helping you digitize that information. And then after that, there's the payments features, which is a low monthly fee to help you consolidate everything in one place. And then we also have a premium product, which is $500 a year, which helps you do all of the tax credit, rebate, application preparation. So we're more like a home finance advisor at that point, like a complement to your CPA.
And how was it starting a business in the Hudson Valley? Did you find it? What's it like to start something here?
It's my dream because we get to talk to our customers every day and get immediate feedback being in a small town environment, and just love living up here personally. And that's been so great. And then we commute to the city 1 or 2 days a week and have a really top-notch team down there. So it's the best of both worlds. And obviously New York City is the kind of finance capital of the world. But it feels like we don't have to compromise on either side, which is really lovely.
So what kind of feedback do you get? What are customers saying about it?
I mean, our whole first year of building the product was actually just sitting with customers and trying to understand their problems when it came to managing their homes and their home finances. It was very, in startup world, we would say, do things that don't scale. It was sitting with customers in their living room and saying, show me your Excel spreadsheet for how you manage your home finances today. And what has been the stories we were talking about. Your property taxes were sent to the wrong address. And when you had a contractor walk off the job, and just trying to kind of really collect these user stories and understand what people's problems have been. So yeah, it was amazing to be able to get that kind of feedback in early days. And I think that part of that also comes with living in a small town. People were generally more receptive to that. Some of our early customers, we would literally walk by and they'd be sitting out on the porch and we'd say, hey, can we talk to you?
It's funny, I used to solicit feedback my first couple of years of the show much more than I do now. I did some surveys and it was great and people really answered them. A high number of people did it. And I've gotten really lazy about getting feedback. So you're making me think I should. The one thing I do get is I get a lot of people who just write in with show ideas. And it's really terrific. And some of them are completely off base. That has nothing to do with the Hudson Valley. you have not listened to my show. And some are brilliant, and I chase them down and I do the shows. I do the shows based on recommendations. So I hope people do it. But I probably need to get more feedback on the show itself and what people want to hear about or what kind of content I should create, because I haven't been as good about it. And I wonder if we get lazy as business owners, even though mine's not really a business. Mine's kind of a...
Totally is.
Some years it's a business, and some years, as my accountant says, every year, Matt, you can't lose money.
That's very funny. But it's been really great for that. I think it's like both feedback from customers and I would say also just troubleshooting in terms of some of the business problems. In early days, we were sending checks to City Hall to pay people's taxes. And then it's a early stage tech companies. Things would break. And then we would walk down to City Hall and say, hey, did you get this thing? So it's been fun. Yeah, getting that real immediate feedback has been awesome. And it's funny, there's some other tech companies who will pick a test bed environment, like Google famously would use New Zealand to roll out new features because it was this contained environment to test new features. And so we kind of treat the Hudson Valley or Hudson as our test environment, which has been really fun.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Anything in common with your customers? Is there any type of person or people that have gravitated to it initially?
Our customers are actually a lot more diverse than I think I originally anticipated. I think I anticipated it to be initially elder millennial, first-time homeowner, digital native, all those things they're used to.
Data obsessive trackers, yeah.
Exactly. Data obsessive, using all the finance apps already, and then just confronted with having to write paper checks and feeling that to be very painful. And there's certainly some of those, but I think we serve a lot of retirees now building their dream home. I think across age spectrum has been much more diverse than we thought. And like their actual homeownership situation. Some folks, they're coming to us because they are co-managing a property with a friend and they want to be able to share finances, or a lot more kind of unique use cases than I think we originally anticipated. But I will say the unifying feature is for, I think, all of our customers, their home really is an important part of their personal identity.
Yeah.
These are people who are, my home is my castle. I mean, we named it castle for a reason, but I think these are people who feel deeply invested in their home. It's a form of self-expression, that kind of thing. So that's probably been the biggest unifying thread.
Are you hoping to go national? Is that the goal, is to expand?
Absolutely. Yes, the goal is definitely national. And we just earlier this year finally launched this bank partnership, which now allows us to move anywhere in the United States. So that was a big milestone. So still focused on New York and focused on the Hudson Valley and making sure that we're getting it right before we go crazy scaling.
Have you noticed anything different about home ownership in the Hudson Valley versus anywhere else, like any weird nuances or something? I'd be very curious.
Absolutely. We picked Hudson Valley as the location to start this company, A, because we live here, but B, there's a lot of other reasons as well. Number one, the housing stock is very old. And so that means people are, generally speaking, having to do more maintenance work.
Right.
And so certainly more helpful if you're doing continuous renovation. So there's that. I would say on top of there being a lot of renovation work, there's also a lot of incentives for renovators and for homeowners, whether that's to install electric heat pumps or insulation or higher energy efficiency windows, the things. So it's the combination of having to spend more money on my house to maintain it. And at the same time, there are these incentives I could be taking advantage of, but they're often quite hard to navigate. And that's a Castle sweet spot, is to help homeowners navigate that. On top of that, New York State is actually really big. People focus so much on the city, but the state is enormous. And with that also comes some of the challenges around the actual payments infrastructure. Like I was mentioning earlier, most homeowners are using 3 or 4 different payment methods a month to manage their expenses. For most of the state, it's not actually put everything on a credit card. It's like I'm using paper checks for some things and bank auto debit for another thing, and then Venmo for this other thing, and giving my gardener cash. So I think that fragmentation problem is also particularly acute for a lot of the upstate environment.
Right now, the market is so tight. We found this house hunting just now, and probably will stay tight for a long time. And interest rates are really high. How does that affect your business? Do you think more people will stay put and renovate, or there'll be a different audience out there that has different needs? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
It's been such a wacky housing market over the last couple of years. I think despite it being really challenging for homeowners, especially people, aspirational homeowners, it's actually been good for Castle, and that we have seen that whether you're trying to buy a new home or whether you're being forced to stay in your home and being confronted with rising costs, insurance, just to name one, and having to figure out how to make your home work for your changing lifestyle and needing to renovate, all across the board, people are thinking more carefully about how to manage their costs, and that's really top of mind. So I guess fortunately for Castle, in either scenario, in like where there's a lot of home transaction activity or whether people are actually stuck and trying to make it work, Castle can serve both use cases pretty well.
What did you do before this?
My background before this was completely unrelated. I worked for GovTech startup type projects. But I will say the true original inspiration for Castle is I come from kind of like a real estate DIY family, and my parents flipped houses growing up in San Francisco. And my grandfather had an incredible tool shed and made models of every home that we ever lived in. And I studied architecture, woodworking for a number of years, way back to high school. So I've always had that kind of interest in DIY and real estate.
That's amazing. I come from like more of an SED background, more of a someone else do it type of thing.
Well, being able to delegate well is also a good skill, but or know your own limits. So that is definitely an important skill as well. But yeah, that was really why moving up to the Hudson Valley was like genuinely a lifelong dream to be able to design and build this house. And I did, in fact, design it and then was quite involved in the renovation itself. So yeah, that was, I would say, the original Castle inspiration is just my own personal love of real estate and the DIY.
Yeah, yeah. And one last question, because this is more personal, is so you do this business with your husband. Brian and I do not work together. Like, we do not. Like, how is that? What is that like?
It works for us. It's so funny. I think people's reactions are either generally, I can't imagine doing that. I would stay away from it with a 10-foot pole, which maybe is your reaction. And then other people say, oh, that's the dream. I think we've just come to realize it's obviously relationships are so different. And so it's definitely would not work for everybody. It works for us. But yeah, obviously we went on this homeowning journey together. So the inspiration was shared. And I think when we started the company, it was just a question of, do we think we have a higher likelihood of success doing it together or doing it individually? And we said, no, we think we should do it together. So that was the decision.
That's great. That's great. So Madeline, what's the bottom line for people? What would you want them to take away from all of this? Homeownership is really complex and managing it's complex, and you've got some tools and stuff, but what do you think people should really take away?
I think homes can still be incredible opportunities for upward mobility for many Americans. It's where they raise their families and create memories. Homes are incredibly personal. But I think also just talking about the fact that this is real money for real people. I always say that if you went out to dinner and you were charged an extra $5,000 on the bill, you would notice and probably be pretty upset about it. And then for some reason, when we're talking about our homes, there seems to be this kind of like resigned expectation that there's going to be these $5,000 rounding errors.
Well, we accept it. We just accept it dumbly.
Well, I don't know. Or just
naively, maybe naively.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it's the status quo. And I think that's still real money for real people. And I guess we think homeowners deserve better. And so far, just in the homeowners we've been able to serve in the Hudson Valley, and our average customer is saving over $10,000, which is just huge amounts of money. And I think there's customers who maybe they're not destitute, but they're a partner going through cancer treatment, or they are trying to save for retirement, or they're sending to school. And it is meaningful amounts of money. So we think just homeowners deserve better, should demand better. And Castle can be a way for them to both enjoy their home, create the memories there, but it can also be an investment in their future.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for listening to Cidiot, and thank you to Madeline and Hugo and Castle for sharing their business with us. Homeownership is a big topic for me, and probably for almost anyone who moves up here from any city. As you heard Madeline and I talk about, I don't ask for enough feedback, so please write in and tell me what you think and what you'd like to hear more about on Cidiot. I don't feel like putting together a survey, but I could. You can send a comment from cidiot.com right under the contact field. And there, you could also quickly review and rate the show really easily, which would not only feed my ego, but also help the show get discovered by new listeners. Thanks. I'm Matt Zucker, apparently up for a Chronogram Reader's Choice Award again for Regional Podcast. So please vote every day you can through May 15th at chronogram.com, right under Arts and Entertainment, Regional Podcast. But you know what? More important than that, let's get outside and enjoy the Hudson Valley. Come visit.
In the valley, moved up from the city. It's a new way of living and I'm trying to get used to it. One pot noodles have an ounce of an idiot. Ordered a Manhattan and they call me a Cidiot. At first I hurt my feelings, but it's kinda got a ring to it. When you move to the country, they can tell when you're new to it. I'm looking at a place, but I'm trying to keep fitting in. It takes too long to be a local, so for now I'm a Cidiot.